when you're not here.
Okay.
In addition to my responding to your question.
Thank you. This particular question...
Can you hold it closer to your mouth?
Yes. This particular question I have been drawn back to, so I know or I feel guided to ask this one. And in my many words here, I tend to be wordy and I write things out, but the question is in here somewhere.
Oh, you're wearing the better not to be wordy costume, is that it?
Could be. Before the thought of time and space, when we were fully awakened beings, consciously united as and in one mind, before the tiny mad idea, before the veil of forgetfulness was drawn, did the Creator glimmer or impulse to us the thought we thought was all our own, that together as individualized expressions of all that is God, we might pretend it was possible to be separate in order to have various experiences of seeming separation, being the prodigal son in the making, then experiencing the joy of remembering that we might then share expressing ourself anew, and self is a capital S, expressing this self anew with the whole.
That is the funniest thing I have heard in ages.
Good.
The answer to your question is absolutely not. What makes it the funniest thing I have heard is that this is a perfect example of how the ego would take the totally meaningless and try to provide it with meaning to justify the so-called adventure that was described, and to also provide the insinuation that all of you are not wasting your time in this so-called adventure. Again, the answer to your question is absolutely not. The Father did not set this up. But the ability to imagine is divine, and it's a possibility always to imagine what is not true. The simple fact is that some of you did it. But you don't need to continue doing it.
It's been difficult for me to understand this because I know that I'm in my mind a lot and I read a lot, and in several books I have come across this concept. And at times, even in the Course in Miracles, it has been stated in there that we were all of one mind, and we are all of one mind. Therefore, it's hard to understand, and I do like to understand. My ego is really wanting to understand.
Of course.
How we did this, how we could have had this tiny mad idea all on our own. If our mind was completely connected to God's and we were a whole.
Well, let me ask you this, and it's a question I've asked before. Where does your lap go when you stand up?
Still there. It's still there. You just can't see it.
No, it's not still there when you're standing up. the question can't be answered because your lap isn't an actual permanent thing. And so not only can the question not be answered, the question can't be understood. You see, there are some things that can't be understood. Something that never happened can't be understood.
Okay.
And I've also pointed out that you can't understand your way into the kingdom of heaven. The only way you can get into the kingdom of heaven is to feel your way in.
I have heard that on many of your tapes.
Yes.
And usually I can relate, but my ego really wants to understand. You know that.
Yes, well, you know what? As I said a little while ago, there is no such thing as the ego, except as an imagination. So your ego suggests to you that there is an answer to this question, and the answer will be valuable, and you give life to that question by validating it and saying, yes, I must be able one way or another to come up to the answer to this question. And as long as you're engaged in trying to find the answer, you're stuck in the illusion. You're stuck in an imaginary state that really isn't going on at all.
And I guess also don't necessarily put validity in everything you read, even if they are so-called spiritual books.
Are you truly just realizing that?
Well, not really. Most of the time I can recognize when things are not real or not true, but then there are those other times. And this was one of them.
Yes, I understand. And I was not making fun of you. You see, there really is no such costume as the truth knower.
Sounds like a good one, though.
I will tell you that if there was one, it would be impressive. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Please remember that truth is revealed. Truth is a revelation, which means it's an inner experience of enlightenment. And truth is constantly being revealed, and it's called creation. And it's not in a book anywhere. And when you say, Father, what is it appropriate for me to do? Where is it appropriate for me to go? You are asking for truth to be revealed. Don't rely on a book as the source of truth, because you won't get revelation. Revelation doesn't exist in print. It exists as a movement in your heart and in your mind. And it's real because it is an immediate, direct experience of the presence of God. That's where to look for truth. When you say, I want to see God in this, you're asking God to reveal himself to you as the substance and presence of this leaf. To ask for the experience of the truth of anything you are experiencing is to ask for not only the revelation of truth, but in asking for the revelation of truth and receiving it, you are glorifying God. Because seeing God and experiencing God is your desire. Getting an understanding of what a leaf is will be useless. And if there's no time and there's no past, then the revelation of what this is, what this leaf is, as God is being it, you might say in each moment, will be a constantly new revelation. This means that your experience of everything and this experience of the brotherhood and the sisterhood is constantly, you might say, recharged with the vitality of the movement of God. It's always new. It's therefore always a maximal experience of God. If you think you can find truth in a book, if you think you have found truth in a book, and you rely on that book, you've stopped paying attention in the moment to the ever new expression of God, that God is being. And you've gone to sleep again. You've stopped being currently conscious of reality. You see?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I'm glad I provided the little humor.
Indeed. Hands. The lady in the back who doesn't have her hand raised.
Well, I have had a question when I was almost falling asleep earlier this afternoon. Suddenly, this idea popped in that I just would like for you to, share any more or expound on this idea that every garment, every role, is one issue. And it's about power and control. So whatever change we make in terms of garments, the real issue is to keep the suggestion that we have power and we have control in any shape or form real before our eyes.
Not only before your eyes, but before your brothers and sisters' eyes. Yes.
So then it dawned on me that this perpetrator of this crime is being met with the same challenge of power and control, even though he may see the United States as the perpetrator of
like Michael
power
and the
control.
raccoons. Yes.
Oh, I don't know if there's any more I really have to say about it except, and that the other idea was that then the issue becomes between control versus trust. And I just wondered if this is correct or if you had anything more to say about it.
You really have expressed it quite succinctly. Always the antidote to control is trust. But once again, trust is something you don't do in your head. Trust is something you don't do conceptually. Trust means you actually are willing to put yourself on the line where you do not have confidence in the outcome. Overtures of trust and overtures of trustworthiness must find genuine expression in order to make a valid invitation to, quote, the enemy, unquote, to sit down at the table and negotiate. And that's the way you break the power struggle. But somebody has to begin to make the overtures, the invitation. Someone has to actually put into the air an expression that says, in spite of your behavior, I will dare to respect you enough to trust you, and in doing so, convey to you that I believe that you are trustworthy, and I extend this trust of your trustworthiness to you so that we might stop fighting and sit down and begin to talk. Someone has to make the investment of trust. And as is almost always the case, a situation of conflict exists because both parties have exhibited a lack of trustworthiness. And so the overture or invitation to trust will not necessarily be received well initially. And the invitation must be persisted in. In other words, the willingness to witness to the best in your brother sometimes will need to be persisted in over and over and over. And the very willingness to persist in it over and over and over, without responding in any other retaliatory way, is the only thing that will prove that the trust that is being extended is trustworthy. So you have to care enough to do the work of reversing something which, in most cases, you helped put into place. And if the lack of trust in you is not a result of something you have created, but is the other individual's own baggage, you cannot sit there and say, you're just going to have to trust me. And you cannot sit there and say, You can't behave in this untrusting way, this ugly way, this unpleasant way with me when I've done nothing to occasion it. The fact that the other one isn't feeling trust needs to be addressed by patiently persisting in being trustworthy in language of trustworthiness that the one not trusting can understand. And your ego can tell you that taking that time is not justified because you didn't create the situation, and whoever did create it should be the one to take the time to uncreate it. But the fact is that this brother or sister of yours who lacks trust needs someone, not necessarily the one who took the trust away, to care enough, to love enough, to express the trust and persist until the lack of trust is so weak that they say, okay. Now, I said this at the last gathering. You don't trust God. You don't trust me. I mean, if you did trust me, you would have all awakened during this gathering. You still have reservations because you are afraid for yourself of what will happen if you totally let go of control and took off your costume. If you trusted me implicitly, you would have already done it. That's what I mean when I say, you don't trust me even now. But your lack of trust and your unwillingness to be less real with me, your unwillingness to be, your unwillingness to be as loving of me as you are capable of, your unwillingness to be in greater harmony with me, your unwillingness to, share yourself with me fully, and I could go on, the list could go on, all constitute a choice you are making to be rather unattractive, unpleasant, ugly, even if you're not being obtuse about it. You're holding yourself separate from me. Causes you to be a less effulgent light source in my experience. The light may not be as dim here as it might be in one of Assam's camps, if I were there. But by comparison with those of the Brotherhood who are awake, you could say you're a rather dull, uninteresting, bland sort of light that that's not nearly as pleasant as the light that is so effulgent from those of my brothers and sisters who are awake. And so I'm trying in a kindly way to provide a comparison without insulting you, so that you might understand that even at your best right now, I could, if I were inclined to come from the ego, feel a preference for those of my brothers and sisters who are putting out a more radiant and stimulating and glorious light than you are, and I could hold you in lesser esteem. And if I held you in lesser esteem, I could say, why bother with them when there's so much glorious light over here? You see? But I don't. And none of us who are awake do. And so, we persist with every single one of you. Even if some of you haven't even been caring to listen and hear anything new for 2 or 3 lifetimes. We haven't gotten discouraged. Discouragement is a meaningless word. And so we hang in there with you because you're us. And you're worth it because we're worth it. The usness of the brotherhood is worth having every single aspect of it, every single part of it, fully lit, if I can put it that way. And we can't experience the fullness of being when you aren't. And your brothers and sisters who are exhibiting less than the best in them is part of you, and you need them. You need them to be encouraged, to dare, to risk the chance that if they let their costume off or they let go of some of their control, to risk the chance that they will be safe. They deserve your unending encouragement, loving, unending encouragement, until they can finally say, okay. You know what, I suppose you could say or think that you can wake up and that'll be it. Wonderful, glorious, magnificent, you know. But when you wake up, you'll realize it's not over. Because there are others who are part of the infinitude of you, who are sort of a dull, bland, not low life, but low light. Who it's perfectly obvious to you deserve to be experiencing the fullness of the light that they are. And you will join with us in extending to them what we've extended to you that has helped you wake up. You see? You don't have to wait until you're awake to start loving your brother and sister. And loving them enough to embrace them when they seem to be unembraceable, and persist in finding ways that convey to them in language of their present perception the encouragement that will register with them and help increase their trust so that they can dare to let go of a little more control and receive the blessing of your caring.